Thank you, everybody, for coming to this talk with us on working with intention from a shamanic point of view. And we're very happy to be doing this talk and to see so many of you here from so many places. And this is a very important theme for us because it might seem a very small aspect of the work, but it is a very important one. And we'll be sharing with you today what we mean by an intention, how to work with it, how to find them, and why they're important for us. And in a way, I feel like it is the key to the door that opens the door and that sets the direction. And so in a way, it's so small that it might we might pass it by and think, oh, I don't have time to stop there and think about it because I want to get right to the exciting, juicy part of the journey or the ceremony. But stop a while before stepping through the door or through the gate and think about why you're doing this piece of work, what it is you're asking the spirits for help for, and where you're going to be going.
Yeah, we just did that a few minutes ago before we started. We just stopped, right? We just stopped and felt ourselves being exactly where we are now, and at the same time being in the circle. And shamanic work is a deep work, and as you all know, it's not just something to be taken lightly. And I've been doing shamanic work very soon. It's coming up to my 38th anniversary of my first piece of what I refer to as disciplined shamanic work. My first drum journey to the spirits.
Where you knew what you were doing.
Well, where I
had an idea.
Had an intention. Where I had an intention. I had spent 12 years searching, and that was my intention. And that's a great intention, but you got to bring it in a little bit tighter, I found out. Right? Searching is one thing, but at some point you find and you feel your foot on the path. And from that moment, you have to step into the work with intention. And I think the reason it took me those 12 years to feel my foot on the path was that I was searching without intention because I didn't really know what I was searching for. I thought I would perhaps feel it, right? And I certainly did when the time came. And I'm sure that most of you know exactly what I'm talking about. But I quickly found out that to do this work with power, that is to be actually empowered by the work, required more than searching. It required deep participation. Deep participation. And to participate deeply, you have to have an intention. And looking back now on all these years since my first journey, I have a very strong feeling that each intention I had led to the next one.
And we're going to be talking about how to find them, how to use them, and what we feel are some really important things to bear in mind. But we want to just stay here in the sort of general waters for a little while, and I really like to pick up what you said about participation, because I feel that the way that we work with the spirits is very much going to them and asking. We're not demanding. We're not telling them what we want and insisting that they deliver to us. We don't want to go around and say the shamanic supermarket and say to the spirits, one of that, one of that, one of that, and two of those, please. So instead, what happens is, with the intention for us is not like an affirmation saying to the spirits, I want this, give it to me, right? Instead, for me, the intention is a way to open my heart or open my senses or open my being to them and speak honestly and clearly, but mainly honestly, so that I come to them with an honest request. And my intention might be holding a great wish, a great longing. It might be holding some exciting new project that I want help with. It might be holding some pain or some confusion. All of these are good things, and you can formulate different intentions differently. And again, we'll put in this link to our page on the website, which gives a little bit more detailed information about what to consider when formulating intentions. But to consider the intention not only as the key that opens the door and the arrow that sets a direction, but as the part, your part of the participation, right? So whatever you're bringing truthfully, honestly, genuinely to the spirits and saying, you know, I really, really would like some help with this, or this is something I really want to know. I'm not just curious. I don't just want to, have the information. It's so important to me. And I feel that when I formulate the intention from that place of a genuine wish, and I take time to do it before I go to them, I take time to sit with myself and really feel into what is it that I genuinely need or want help with. And then for me, the intention becomes like a bridge, right? It becomes a bridge from me to the spirits where we are hand in hand. And they're saying, aha, we hear you. Thank you for taking the time to formulate your wish so clearly. We really hear you now, and we will respond. It is like if you come with a true note, they can respond in kind. And that's a very wonderful piece of work. It's very simple, it's very personal, it's very deep. And the more we work on it and give time to it, the more the work that comes after, which is the journey or the ceremony or the guided walk, the more that can open up and be really, really rich and still be contained, right? We're going to talk more about this in a minute, that the intention also helps us to contain and understand and receive the experience.
And this is receive. This is such an important part of it. I'd like to get a little bit more into this subject in a little more detailed way and not so generalized. Those of you who've worked with us before have heard us say this, but intentions generally are either generally about asking for help or asking for guidance information, right? And these two can easily overlap, and sometimes they do. But the reason it's so important to be clear about what your intention is, because a lot of things can happen while we're visiting in the world of the spirits. And if we don't have a clear intention, we're not going to maybe understand a lot of what goes on there. Because your intention is the key to opening up the power of the journey. And the reason for making the journey is not to escape whatever your life situation might be, but it is to become empowered to step into whatever your life situation is.
So I really like this, what you say, Jonathan, of course, and we'll come back to many of them. But I also want to say here that he reminded me that the way that we work with the journey when we come home, or even a walk or a ceremony, an experience with the spirits, for us, they're not symbolic, right? There's not one thing that means this, so if they cut off your hands, it doesn't automatically mean one thing, right? If you're given something to drink, it doesn't automatically mean one thing. We don't interpret the journey. What we rather do is look at what is the experience that you had in relation to the intention, right? So it might be that somebody experiences getting stuck in the mud, right, on a journey or a walk in nature, right? And maybe the question they asked was, what is my next step in having a deeper connection with nature? And they find themselves stuck there in the mud and they can't go anywhere, and they come back and they're very frustrated because, what was the next step? They couldn't go anywhere. And so we look at, what was the intention? The intention, what is my next step to have a deeper connection with nature? Well, how did you feel there when you were stuck in the mud? Well, I felt frustrated. And what else did you feel any contact? Yeah, I felt some contact. Actually, I felt quite a lot of contact. In fact, it was really wonderful on my bare feet to feel that wonderful soft mud. And then we might ask, so how did it feel? Did you feel a deeper connection? Yes, I did. It was in fact a wonderful connection to just stop and stand there and just feel the earth around my feet. So it doesn't necessarily mean one thing. It is about the felt experience seen in reflection of the intention. You would like to say that the intention is sort of like a lens or a mirror.
It's like a lens to help you to, like a magnifying glass, right? And it's also like a key. It's also like a key because sometimes, more than sometimes, often I come back from a journey and I'm just, whoa, what was all that about, right? I've had some very powerful experiences. But then when I remember, okay, this was my mission, okay, when I bring the mission to the journey, then I start to understand. And what I generally do is I go to the things that are more immediately apparent, right? And this is sort of like climbing a ladder in the way. You have to go one rung at a time on the ladder, or walking a path. You have to take one step at a time. And the first step can be the most difficult. But after you take that one, then the others slowly or quickly depending on how much resistance I have, open up. And I can move on into the journey deeper, into what the spirits are trying to show me. And I used to think, why don't they just tell me? Why don't we just sit down and around the campfire and have a cup of blueberry leaf tea or something like that, and they could just tell me what I want to know. The answer to that is pretty easy, because if they just tell me, then I forget. But I don't forget these incredible experiences I have on the journey, some of which are beautiful and some of which are scary. But when I look at even the scary ones through the lens of the mission, I know when I come back, I know my spirits are showing me something that's very applicable to me. It might not mean anything to Zara or to you, but it will mean something to me and sit in my being, not just in my head, but in my being.
So you can have a very powerful, exciting, interesting spirit experience, and it can have on the layer that you just simply have the experience and the sensations. But when you have the intention reflecting it back to you, it helps you to go often deeper into what we call the deep teachings and see exactly those moments when we were maybe afraid or confused or frustrated, that actually they hold a much deeper meaning. And I very, very much feel in my personal experience, the spirits that we work with, they do not try to trick us. They do not try to test us. They try to train us. They give us wonderful training opportunities. And so for me, the whole journey or the walk or the ceremony is sort of like a training opportunity. They say like, oh, you want to learn how to do that? Well, come with me and I'll show you several situations where you can go through this yourself and you can practice it in the spirit world. And things will come up that might be blocking you from trying it, or you can learn to let go of things, or you can learn to receive help.
Yeah. And I'd like to talk about this for just a moment, because in the dawn of time, I studied anthropology, and I remember that there were several books that I quite enjoyed reading about the trickster, right? And this is a great theme in anthropology, or at least it was 50 years ago. And since practicing shamanism, I've come to see that on a very deep and personal level, that the trickster is not a trickster, right? It's just that that's our response, because we're stuck in my case, in being Jonathan, right? And the reason for me to do this work is that I want to expand Jonathan, right? I'm tired of being stuck in the mud in my ordinary reality life. And sometimes that can be a great teaching too. And this is something we'll hopefully get back to toward the end of our talk. But these tricks, they're not tricks. They're actually efforts to get us unstuck. Right.
They have a different logic, the spirits, and a different language. And so we have to try and learn how they communicate with us. And we're probably going to do another talk about that sometimes.
And those of you who have been working shamanically for a while, you're very much aware that they have another logic and another language, because they're not confined by the spirit world. I mean, the physical world. They are not at all confined by anything, although sometimes they can pretend to be. right? And that's because they are trying to help us to take that step forward that I mentioned earlier.
Now, I would like to encourage you again to please use the chat if you have any questions or comments, either to us or to each other, so that we can hear what it is that you'd like to know about. We're going to talk a little bit about how to find an intention and how to formulate it. And I work a lot with words. We both work a lot with words and the power of words. And we love to work with honing an intention. So it's quite clear and it's quite brief, concentrated, and it's very solid. So we actually spend always at least like 10-15 minutes. We were doing this just yesterday. At least 10-15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes.
Sometimes half an hour.
Really?
Or an hour.
Depending on how complex the issue is or the situation. To just come to the right formulation. So the general process that we use is we start wide and then we hone in. So we start by asking ourselves or each other some general questions, and I'll come back to those in a little while. And those general questions help me to sort of begin to actually feel a little bit like more, okay, why am I here? What is it that I want to ask? And I begin to sort of like come into that, and again, like not so much just think it, but really feel it and begin to feel that place where it's genuine, it's true, it's authentic, it's honest. And then once I feel that I've got that place, right, then we begin to see, okay, so how could I actually ask that question? And often there are 3 or 4 or 5 different variations. And so what we normally do is we will write out each variation, and then we will speak them out loud, and we can taste them, right? And sometimes I find very often when I speak it out loud, an intention, and then another one, and then another one, and they're all just variations of the same issue, I suddenly hear it's that one. Or, yeah, that's okay, but that word isn't right. And so then we spend more time. It's like the music, again, the pure tone of the intention, right? That you find this purity of tone in it, where it's not that it's right in a correct way. It's just right for you. You're saying, yes, these are the right words. That's what I mean. And sometimes the work we do with clients is very much about this, is about like listening to them and then reflecting back to them various types of potential intentions that they then go off and do the work with. And sometimes it can be really helpful to have someone there that sort of picks up what they've heard and reflects it back to you, because maybe you haven't thought about asking the question from that perspective. And this is why in our monthly newsletter at the end these days, we're always offering you 3 potential formulations for spirit work that you can use to try and really get into this practice, this habit of really sort of feeling good and interested about how to formulate intentions, because it's such a wonderful, simple but important part of the work. And we find on our courses that a lot of people, it's not easy for them, right? And it really comes with experience. So it's wonderful to give yourself the experience of practicing, even if you feel like, I don't have time to do a piece of spirit work right now. But anyway, what would the intention be? And then I just spend 5 or 10 minutes with that, with myself, writing down. And I find sometimes just having that intention with me through the day, the spirits sort of give me little signs, even if I don't have time to do the actual spirit work.
I'd like to just underline something. You were talking about enough time. Enough time, right? And I really feel that if it's important enough to journey about, it's important enough for you to give yourself enough time. Right? And I got to admit that I'm a little bit slower than most people in almost every way. And so I finally have learned to really give myself enough time. Right? I've gotten a little bit tired of arriving at the bus stop 2 minutes late, right? And the next bus isn't until tomorrow, right? That happened about, long time ago. And still, it took me a little bit of time to learn to get to the bus stop early so that I could actually look around and enjoy the sunshine, right?
See where you are.
See where I am, feel where I am, right? And the first question that you really want to ask is, what do I want to journey about? Right? A nice broad question to ask yourself. And you probably know that. You probably know that because there's something that's been on your mind, right? Maybe it's your relationship to one of your parents who's getting old, and you don't know quite how to handle the fact that they're getting old, right? Or maybe it's about one of your kids who's growing up and you don't quite know how to handle that number either. Or maybe it's both, right? But just choose one of these issues in your life. Maybe you want to find a more interesting job. And the more interesting job you want maybe doesn't pay as much as the horrible job that you have. So then you have to look at, am I going to do this trade-off or not? Right? All kinds of possibilities. But choosing the subject of the journey. What are you going to journey about? That's the first question.
And sometimes there may be 2 or 3 or 4 questions, right? And you think, oh, I'll just do them all in one because I don't have time to do another. So please try not to do that. Because
don't do it.
One intention at a time. It's like trying to eat ice cream and
a hot dog.
Well, I was going to say a vegetarian hot dog. Ice cream and cauliflower all at the same time, and it's
ice cream and cauliflower.
Although we did have, we have had some nice ice cream, vegetable ice creams in the day. We had some wonderful beetroot sorbet in Italy, in fact.
Oh, that was good, yeah.
Anyway, try not to eat like all these different things at once because it makes it much more difficult to digest. It makes it much more difficult to understand what they're trying to show you and tell you.
Right, like what I said. Choose what you are going to journey about. And don't put 3 things in the same journey.
Yeah.
Right? Make 3 journeys. Right.
Another very good thing to think about is to ask it as an open question or an open request. So you're not asking a yes or no question. And you're not really putting pressure on the spirits to answer you, to give you the answer. Should I do this? Should I do that? Is this a good idea? Right? If you want to know things like that, a much better formulation is an open one, like what is important for me to be aware of in this situation, or ask for help to make a good decision, or to ask to see this issue or this relationship through your eyes, spirits.
Through the eyes of the spirits, yeah.
And then this way what happens is, like you said before, it's not just like, okay, I'm going to go to you, give me the answer, I go home. No, we come with this open question, and that gives the spirits a lot more room to work. It gives them a wider field where they can teach you a lot more. Often there might be a lot more in this question that you think. We just want an answer, we want it to be fixed. And they say, no. There's so much here that we want to teach you and show you.
And also, if you had an important issue in your life and you went and you asked a question that that called forth a yes or no answer, would you believe it? Right? You go to your spirits and you say, oh, great wise ones, should I get a divorce? Yes. Knock your socks off. Are you going to pay attention to that if they just say yes? Or what if they say no? Are you going to believe that? Right? What effect would it have on my life if my partner and I got a divorce?
It's a wonderful mission.
And then by the end of the journey, you'll know. You'll know.
And this is another really important aspect of working with the spirits and formulating intentions. You were talking earlier about participation. And rather than saying, okay, spirits, fix this for me, tell me what to do, and then you can put all the responsibility and all the blame on them if it doesn't go right, right? Instead, ask for help to see the situation clearly, like we said. Ask for help to make a good decision, or ask for help to get their perspective. And then you are an active participant in making the choice, right? In having the felt realization, the experiences in the journey that help you to literally take you to a new place where you think, this is what I'm going to do. So then it's not about giving up your responsibility to them. It's asking them for help to play a more active part in your life.
Exactly.
I thought we could do a little mini demonstration.
Oh my God! You didn't tell me about that.
No, I didn't. We didn't plan this, but I thought, oh, it's good, So just to,
yes.
because sometimes it's very abstract when we talk about this, and when we do the shamanic counseling courses, we spent a lot of time on this, and actually taking time working in pairs just on the intention. So I thought I would come to Jonathan and say, I have this issue that I want to journey on, but I'd like your help in actually formulating the intention. And Jonathan will very wisely and sagely help me and maybe ask some very good questions to explore the territory around that wish, right? So we often come, I want this, please give me this, I want this. But he's going to help me to explore the territory around this before I even set off on the journey. It might help me to come into a deeper place.
Right. Thank you, by the way, because I thought she was going to make me be the one coming with the issue.
Of course not. You've been doing this for years and years and years. So.
All right.
So for as an example, I come with what seems to me a very simple and concrete request, mm-hmm. right? I would like to be able to sleep better or sleep more, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So can I just go and ask for help to sleep better?
You can do that. Mm-hmm. There are two approaches, mm-hmm. right? One is like that, just to ask for help to sleep better, mm-hmm. and this is basically asking for healing. Right? Because in this case, you don't have to really do anything except to open up to the journey and what happens on the journey and to receive it.
So it might be that I have tried 15 different things to get better sleep. I've taken this, I've done that, I've turned off my screen. And I'm still exhausted.
Half an hour of yoga before bedtime. Right?
And so I've tried everything I can think of. And so in that situation, I don't really need more information. I just need help, right?
Right.
So I could just ask for help to sleep better because I'm so exhausted. I don't know what to do.
That's exactly right. You can ask for help, and this is a great thing to do, because it involves a wonderful spiritual practice. which is surrender, surrendering to power, not surrendering to power that will push you down, but surrendering to power that will lift you up. Right? And people are so hesitant to surrender, even if they have a feeling it's going to help out. Still, the act of surrendering means I'm out of control. Right? And I just want to add one little thing, and that is, you are out of control. Right? We all, what we love to do is to go through our day thinking we're in control. Right? And most of the time we are. We may be in control of ourselves, but we're not in control of what can happen to us. I don't mean to make you all paranoid, but the world has its plan too.
And so in those situations, we can ask for power to meet what comes. I can ask for power and connection to help me face the day. So I'm not trying to control what's happening to me. Instead, I'm asking for power and connection to help me be with it. But we're going to return.
It only took me about 10 years to learn that.
Yeah. And so another anyway, 10 to practice.
And another 10 to begin to practice it. Yeah, really. Yeah.
So just for a little while, we're going to return to this issue of
yes.
So if I come and say, well, I haven't actually tried very many things. So couldn't the spirits just fix it for me?
Well, maybe yes, maybe no. But maybe it's something that you should be doing, right? And so maybe you want to ask the spirits for some advice about what you could do, what changes you could make in your life, what new practices that you could begin with. Or maybe it's something really simple, right? And so you could ask them about, what can I do so that I sleep better at nighttime?
So here are 3 different types of formulations, and they're very similar in one way, but they each give you a slightly different end to the question. So one is, what can I do? So then you're saying, well, I think I'd actually like to do some things, So what you asking the spirits from their perspectives, what do they think? But you also said, what can I change? What changes can I make in my life in order to sleep better? And that's in general a wonderful mission for all sorts of things. What changes can I make in my life? So again, you're saying, I want to be an active participant. And then a very wonderful formulation is, what is my first step or my next step to sleeping better? Right? Or what is important for me to be aware of in terms of creating good rest?
There are all kinds of possibilities, as you can see.
But there might also be deeper layers in this question, right? So it might not only be about sleep. I wish I could sleep more and then everything would be all right. So you might ask me some more questions about trying to find out what this situation is.
Sure. I mean, I'd be asking you about your job, for example, and your daily routine and things like that, and what you do in the 3 or 4 hours before you go to bed. If you wait until you're totally exhausted before going to bed, or do you, there are all kinds of questions I could ask.
So in this situation, and again, we're giving you this example so that you can feel into what kind of questions you might want to ask yourself when you're sort of digging a little deeper into the intention. And it might be something like, how do I deal with stress? Or can I accept the power of rest? Right? Ask for help to accept the power of rest in my life. Or I might want to ask for help to slow down and connect to myself. So as you might be working with somebody else, they begin to sort of peel off the layers of what the other things that might be in this heartfelt question.
Right. So as you talk more and more, more things will become apparent to you, and hopefully also to the person that you're talking to. But it's to formulate that good, clear, concise intention for the journey, so that when they come back from the journey, whatever has happened, they have that good, clear, concise intention as the key that can help them to open the mysteries of the journey.
So if you don't have anybody to talk to, and you want to do this with yourself, I like to do it by writing. You know, I like writing, and writing sort of helps us to reflect a little bit more. And so I ask myself these open questions, right? And so I might begin by asking myself, what would I most like help with today? Or how do I feel about this situation right now? Or what is it that I'm longing to begin? Or what would I like to let go of? Those are generally good questions to begin to sort of dig in a little bit to your life, where you are right now. If you want to ask about a relationship, then try to ask yourself a few questions like, what is precious to me about this relationship? What do I love about it? What do I find difficult or frustrating? How do I see myself when I look at the relationship? And so these kind of things means that when you're working with a relationship, we always recommend that you journey for yourself. You don't journey to change another person, because that would be so easy if they were just a bit nicer to you. But you ask for help for your role in the relationship.
In fact, it's really unethical to try to change another person. Right? I mean, that's the bottom line, isn't it?
And it doesn't work.
Of course it's their fault, you know. Of course. I mean, there's no question about that. But what can you do about it, right? What can you do about it? How can you respond to their inconsiderate behavior, for example? Or how can you respond to this person being so generous with you when she knows that it's very difficult for you to receive gifts, right? Just these things, right? You're working with yourself, and this is not an egotistical thing to do. Quite the contrary. Because the better you fit into your life, the better it is for everyone around you.
And you're taking responsibility for your life, for your part in life. And that's a wonderful thing, you know, and also it's a very empowering thing. Often we might feel that taking responsibility is heavy or difficult, but it can be very joyful and very empowering. And so great formulations around relationships can, for instance, be formulations like ask for help to be a better friend, you know, to this person, or what can I do to be a better parent to this person, or ask for help for my relationship with my brother or my sister, or
There's something to watch out for here, though, and that is, we don't want you to get the idea that everybody's messed up, right? Because we are, right? And at the same time, the yin and the yang of it is that we're all absolutely perfect for where we are right now at this moment in our life. But this does not mean that we cannot become more perfect. Right? Hopefully we change as we grow. That's the whole idea, for me anyway. I know I was a great kid when I was 7 years old. And I wasn't so bad either when I was 15. I was a little stupid and awkward. I was okay, though. Still basically a nice guy, right? And even when I was 24, right? But at the same time, uh, I could be very selfish, right? And inconsiderate, right? And only think about myself. And at the same time, I could be very generous and think about other people first, right? We're human beings. And this is such an incredible gift. And what I love so much about shamanic practice is that we can really participate in our growth, right? In a way that connects us wonderfully to the world around us. So, we're not just pulling all these things out about how awkward or inconsiderate or terrible we are. No, right? It's about how we can become even more beautiful.
And in fact, sometimes those intentions are very difficult and challenging. And so we're going to give you some examples of them that you might want to try out. And so one of them is ask for help to accept myself, right? Or how can I appreciate my true beauty? Or there was another one. How can I develop this skill, this particular skill or talent that I have, right? That you want to. And these are appreciating the gifts of life. They're not an egocentric focus. They're appreciating and receiving the gifts of life. So each of us can be fully alive, and that is really receiving the power. Another beautiful one that you can do on a walk in nature is, what is my next step in working with my natural power? What is my next step in working with my natural power? And these are wonderful ways to work. And actually, we very much try, not always, but often, to find formulations that are working for rather than against, right? So, for instance, there might be a situation that you don't like that you're in, right? And you ask about, fixing that situation. But instead, you could dig a little deeper and listen to what is the longing in me in that situation. And then do a journey about the longing. And the situation will resolve itself because I'm really working with the longing, right? So for instance, right, it might be that I'm in a job that I really don't want to be in anymore, and I could journey about the job. But when I'm really thinking about it, I can come into this feeling that I have this other longing in me to develop a different path, right? And so then I could ask things like, how can I take the next step on that path, right? Or how can I have the courage to begin to paint again, right? Or ask to find a community where I can work with wood. So these are all wonderful missions that open us up towards something.
Right, and back to this thing about the job, one of you wrote in that this about what effect would it have on my life if, right? And then asked about the following few words: if I quit my job, or what effect would it have on my life if I kept my job? These are two great questions, right? And so I would invite you to do both, really.
First one,
first one,
then the other.
and then the other. And it could be that after the first one, there's no question about it at all. Get rid of that job. Or, no question about it at all, this is the job for you, right? And you can really develop this job, and this job can develop you, right? Or maybe not. Maybe you finish the journey and say, oh, that's very interesting, yeah, and you go over it and you see all the things they're pointing out. Oh, but I still want to do the other one about what happens if I stay in my job, right? And so then do it. Do it. Jobs are important. This is where you're spending, if you're working out, that is not working at home, it's where you're spending at least an eighth of your life. So this is important.
And this pair formulation of first doing one journey, what effect will it have on my life if I stay here? And then the second journey, what effect will it have on my life if I leave? You can do that both with a job, a relationship, a house. So, and the beautiful thing is, and I actually did this many, many years ago, I did this. First I did one journey and then I did the other. And it was so interesting because they said, well, both are good, but it's your choice what kind of life you want to have, right? And it was so clear, that it was my choice. And then when I actually made that choice, I felt I have done it with, care and consideration, and I've taken my time and I've looked into it, and it felt like it was really complete. And so whether you stay or go, you know that if I stay, I'm really choosing to stay. And then often when we choose to stay, that can really change things rather than if we're sort of hanging around with one foot out the door. If we choose to go, even though it's very hard, and then you think, oh my God, it's so clear I've got to go, but I'm too scared. Well, then do another journey and ask for help and courage to say goodbye, or ask, what do I need to do before I can leave this job? Preparation journeys are wonderful, right? What do I need to do in preparation of leaving my job? And they might give you a wonderful thing. So you don't just get an answer, but you get a whole healing process, like you were talking about. Yeah.
And for example, this just reminded me about 5 years ago, I got a very heavy diagnosis, and I was told that I had to have some heavy duty surgery. And it was like 8.5 hours worth. Well, this is of course very upsetting news, and the hospital is about an hour away, so we were driving home from the hospital and pretty much in silence, right, trying to take this in. When we got home, we sat down and started to talk about, okay, how to prepare. Because each of us had to prepare in our own ways, right? And so then we started figuring out, okay, what's the first journey? And then after the first journey, we worked with that, and it was clear what the next journey should be. And fortunately, we had, about 3 weeks to prepare. And by the time we got to the hospital, we got out of the car, and I looked at the hospital, and I said, this is a temple of healing. And these words, they really surprised me. And as soon as I heard them, I knew I was ready. And we just walked right into the hospital.
And you wrote an article about it called Under the Knife for Sacred Hoop magazine, and I'll put it on our website soon under our library, shamanism.dk, because there are a lot of examples of how you can find formulate intentions in situations like that. And there's a question here about how do I know when to ask for information and when to ask for help? And so I'll say a little bit about that also in relationship to this, because you might want to do both, but it's good to do one at a time, you know. Usually what we say is, I feel like, you know, like, I feel like ready. I want to do something. I want to be part of this. I want to do my part. I want to find out what to do, but give me some good advice, right? Then ask an information or a guidance journey. How can I? What's my next step? What is important when I do this? But asking for help or power, that is more when you're like, you know, I've tried everything. I just don't know what to do, or I'm so exhausted, or I'm just so scared, or I just so confused, right? You just, and information won't help. It's the power and the support and the help that you need. So that's a very sort of general distinction between them. And in your situation, then we did it's very good to do a mix of them. If you find yourself only doing advice journeys, maybe it's because you're a little bit scared to really surrender into the power, like you were saying, or be held. You know, maybe you don't think, some people think they don't deserve the help, you know, they've got to work hard themselves, but it's okay. We all deserve help. And we don't have to pay for it, you know, we just have to ask for it.
I was told very early on in my shamanic career by my spirits, the shaman works by asking for help. Right? The shaman works by asking for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. This is a big pitfall for a lot of people.
So in that situation, when you had to go in for major surgery, there were a lot of things. So like Jonathan said, some of them were journeys about preparation. But another thing was that you also journeyed, I remember, to ask for help to stay in power while in the hospital, because we knew you were going to be in there for at least 7 to 10 days, and it wasn't really maybe an environment that you felt that good in, and that tends to sort of take care of you, but almost too much. And so you were concerned about that. And so that journey was sort of not so much about the actual surgery, it was about asking for help to stay in connection with my power whilst in hospital. And it was so beautiful, because it wasn't a journey that was contentious or aggressive.
No.
It was just such a beautiful connection, and I remember seeing you there, and it made such a difference.
It made a huge difference, and
to your healing, also.
To my healing, and you know, then another thing is to notice how much the spirits actually start making things happen in your life, right? Because they arranged for the most wonderful nurse I could have ever hoped for. And yeah, the moment we saw her, it was clear that she was sent by the spirits, right? It was absolutely clear.
It was wonderful.
That was so great.
And whenever you feel you have something big coming up ahead, even if it's something wonderful, you know, like you're going to get married, or your child is going to get married, or you've got a big birthday coming up, or you're about to start a new job, or you've got loads of funding for a great new project, you know, and like do a preparation journey, you know, do a preparation journey. This like, ask for help to step into this with power and joy, this project or this new phase, or, you know, what do I need to remember as I say yes to this project, or ask for help to say yes to this project, or even what do I need to let go of before I step into this new relationship. And this way, we're not waiting until there is a problem or a crisis. We're again taking this active participation in our life and saying, I really want to be, you know, doing this in a deep and rich way.
And that's what happens.
Mm.
That's what happens.
I want to give one more really lovely example, which is that I remember years and years ago on a course, someone in London, I think it was, someone said, and they hadn't really been working very long, and they'd been on a course 6 months ago or 4 months ago, and they came back and they said, well, I feel a bit bad because I haven't been journeying to the spirits. I haven't seen them for such a long time, and I feel kind of guilty or ashamed or stupid for going back now. And I've actually heard this many times, that our fear of not being good enough or worthy enough in our relationship with the spirits, they keep us away from them. And one of my spirit teachers, she said, don't ever let anything keep you away from me. It's always much better to come and ask than to stay away. Because then she can't, actually she can still get to me, but it's easier if I go to her. And so if you find yourself in that position ever, and it's not only for so-called beginners, it can happen anytime. After 10 years, you suddenly, maybe you have a pause or hiatus. And so there are some wonderful, gentle, opening intentions, that is to journey to my spirits and ask, what is our next step in working together? Or journey to the spirits and ask, what can I do for you? Or how can I have a better relationship with you? And they are not time dependent. They're not really situation dependent. You can do them once a year or twice a year if you like. So, and this is just good maintenance of the relationship so that it's strong and vibrant.
There are so many possibilities, but one possibility there isn't is just to make a journey to see what happens.
Mm-mm.
Right? Please don't do that. We always need help.
So right. Do you want to say a little bit more about sort of curiosity, just to, because you're just going because you're curious?
Yeah, that's if you are, most people only do that right in the very beginning because they're afraid. They don't want to commit. This word commit, it's a difficult word for a lot of people. I think about 99.9999% of the people, this word commit automatically full attention, right? So, and to commit to something that you don't know so much about. But I think that most of the people who come on a second workshop or retreat, they're ready to commit, but they haven't admitted it to themselves yet, right? And they want proof. Don't look for proof. The proof is all around us constantly. We're constantly being shown. Even way before I ever picked up a drum, looking back on my life, I had so many experiences where the spirits were trying to get through to me. And my response, oh boy, I was lucky that time, right? Like the time I ended up on the hood of a taxi cab looking through the window at the driver because I happened to be looking at a pretty girl crossing the street instead of paying attention to the traffic light, right? Boom. Not a scratch. And we all have these experiences. If we've gotten to this point in our life, it's not only because we're wonderful, clever people. It's also because somebody's looking out for us.
And instead of finding out the proof or clever answers, put the focus on the relationship. Find out how you can have a better relationship, what you can do with them, what they need from you. And this is a wonderful way to, like we said, maintain and give thanks for the relationship. Is another wonderful mission. How can I give thanks for your presence in my life? And we talked about this. Don't just journey for the curiosity's sake. And I feel that it's coming back right to the very beginning of our talk, which is to be truthful and genuine and real with the spirits. When it really means something for me, what I'm asking them for, it really means something to me, it's real, then I really show up to them and they show up to me. If I just want to sort of be a tourist and have an interesting, exciting experience, they're generous, so they might turn up for that, but it might not be very deep. But if we show up with real, heartfelt questions, they will also nearly always show up. So there is a lot more we can say, but we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
Is there any last words
Well,
you want to add?
there's one little thing that I like to talk about, and it's something that I noticed pretty early on in my shamanic practice, and that is that, and this about formulating the intention. It almost always came from something that I wanted. Not like $1 million or something like that, but just something that I wanted.
Less pain.
Less pain or
happiness.
easier life, or something like that. And it's always so interesting because I found out very quickly that the spirits heard that. My spirit teachers and helpers, they heard that. But what they always gave me was what I really needed in relationship to what I wanted, right? There was this very subtle difference and a very powerful difference. And so a lot of the time it's very difficult for us to see what we really need. And so it's really a wonderful thing. This I've found to be a super extra bonus, because what we really need is so much deeper and so much more life affirming than what we want. What we want is generally halfway there, right? And the spirits go this extra mile and show us what we need. What a gift! What a gift this is.
And sometimes when we come back from a walk or maybe a ceremony or a journey, spirit journey, maybe we think first, I didn't get what I wanted. What was that all about? You didn't give me what I wanted. And that's why, again, we take our time and look into the journey and have the intention, like, as you said, a lens to look into it much deeper and shine a light on it. And then we begin to see, no, but maybe they gave me what I needed. If I look a bit deeper into it.
And sit with it, with it. I remember in the beginning of my practice, a lot of the people that I went on retreats with, some of them were like doing 3 or 4 journeys a week, and sometimes I would do 2 journeys a week. But now it's okay. That was 38 years ago. But now I really like to take my time and really feel the journey and really feel in me the changes the journey is making. Right? And and getting from it what I really need. And it's so interesting because I remember years ago, people used to say about someone else, "Oh, that person is so needy," right? And maybe that person was just very honest, right? Because we all need this beautiful connection that we have. What we really need is to feel it.
So we would really like to encourage you to enjoy this part of the process, this small part before we set off on the great journey, the great adventure. The small part where we sit down with ourselves and listen more deeply and take time to sort of formulate our question so that when we come to the spirits with it, it is clear. And then we can really enjoy the experience and have more help in bringing it home.
And then we can really enjoy the power afterwards when we take our clearly formulated mission to what we have experienced and use that as the magnifying glass to see the small print or the key to open the treasure chest.
And actually, we really enjoy taking that time after the journey or the spirit experience. And it's almost like going on a treasure hunt or doing a kind of a dig, right? Where you just keep finding more and more gifts in the journey when you really look at it. And again, we just did this yesterday, and it never fails to astound and amaze me that the first level of the journey is like what happened and what we experienced, and then you begin to look a bit deeper in relation to the journey mission, and it's just incredible what happens. It's like this magic box that opens up.
It is a magic box that opens up.
It's certainly magic. So thank you so much for being with us here today, and as we said, there is more information on our website here, shamanism.dk, Formulating Intention, and also some work about journey missions. And we're going to be doing a couple of online courses that are open to everybody. One called Open to Power, which is about working with the rattle and song and nature, and one called Healing Earth. So maybe we'll see you on one of them. But otherwise, there's a lot of information on our website, a lot of articles. So, and thank you for wanting to be connected. Thank you for wanting to feel the spirits in your life.
You reminded me about Open to Power, because this is fun, right? Okay, you've got to put up with us on the screen for a couple of hours every week, but then we give you homework, right? And you've never had homework like this. This is fun. We're going to send you outside and you're going to have a good time. So I can really recommend it. Yeah.
And thank you so much for being in this life and being in this world. And may you have beautiful days ahead, and whatever challenges lie ahead for all of us, may we meet them with power, connection, community, and love.
And openness.
Thank you.
Open to life, open to power. Thank you.